7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Committee on July the 17th. Can I introduce some of our officers here? Mr. Bryant on our left, Mr. Bateman, and we have Mr. Montney and Judy Holmes to assist us if we need any help. I will start with agenda item number 1, to receive apologies for absence, and I have received apologies from Councillors Cherry, Councillor DeBell, Councillor Kinney and Councillor Marsh. Second item, to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Do I have any? No, thank you. Moving on to item number 3, to be agreed by general affirmation the minutes of the previous meeting held on 7th of February and on 24th of May. So can I please refer to Mr. Montney to explain and respond to this?
Normally, this solicitor would confirm the minutes, but due to the fact there's been a change in administration and the fact that I wasn't present at the previous meetings, on the advice of the Director for Resources and Organisational Development, I'm happy to confirm the minutes of the previous meetings held on the 7th of February and the 24th of May 2023. Okay.
Can I just have a general agreement by the participants, not any voting, just agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Item number 4, to consider any items that the chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. Item number 5, to appoint the members of the Licensing Subcommittee A. The members of Licensing Subcommittee A, and these are the members that will deal with taxis, are Councillor Knight, Councillor Marsh, Councillor Mockford, Councillor Wood and Councillor Hinwood. Subcommittee B is usually made up of any of the members of the Licensing Committee, and Subcommittee B deals with alcohol licenses. Okay? So if I can move on to... You need to propose it. Oh, I beg your pardon. We need to propose these 5 members to go forward on this subcommittee. I will propose those 5 members in block. Do I have a seconder?
I would be happy to second.
Okay, so those 5 members will now become part of our... Shall we have a vote? Is it agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. We'll forget that. Okay. The next item is going to be number 6, request for increase in Hackney carriage fares, and I will turn to Mr. Bryant to go through this report and explanation. Thank you.
Chair, thank you. Members, the purpose of the report is in respect of a proposal to review the Hackney carriage fares annually, and also to consider whether an increase should be made this year. I just have some clarification of paragraph 2. At the meeting of the Licensing Committee on the 28th of June 2022, the committee agreed to consider a rolling year-on-year review of Hackney carriage fares. This leads on to the report's recommendations. The committee is recommended to not to introduce an annual review of the Hackney carriage tariff, but to review on request of the trade, and not to vary the tariff for this year. However, should an increase be considered as appropriate, the tariff will be increased by the current rate of inflation, which is used by a number of other authorities. However, any increase would be following a full statutory consultation process with the trade and the public. Now, as background for the members, the fares charged by Hackney carriages are set and regulated by Mid-Sussex District Council. There's obviously a set tariff for journeys, and drivers are not permitted to charge more than the metered fare, although they could charge less. The council does not have any powers to regulate the fares for private hire vehicles. At the meeting of the Licensing Committee last year, it was resolved that in addition to an increase of the tariff card at that time, there would be consideration of an annual review of the tariff card commencing June 2023. Historically, the Mid-Sussex Taxi Association were the recognised channel for requests of this type to be received by the council. Unfortunately, since approximately 2018, the association has been not active, but we have received requests from sections of the trade for increases in their tariff on occasion since that time. The process followed is if we receive requests for an increase in the tariff, the licensing team will canvass the Hackney trade as a whole to see whether or not an increase is desired by a majority of drivers, and then it will come before yourselves to consider any increase. The most recent tariff increases in Mid-Sussex were in 2014, 2018 and 2022. Now, obviously, increases in tariff, as members will be aware, must be carefully considered and an appropriate balance achieved. For example, when setting a tariff, community safety must be considered to ensure an adequate supply of taxis as a safe mode of transport, particularly when other public transport isn't available, such as late at night. An unreasonably low earning potential could reduce the number of licensed taxis, and similarly, an unreasonably high fare would deter the public from using locally licensed taxis. The committee and members will be aware that any increase in taxi fares could negatively impact on low-income individuals and families. But obviously, taxi drivers may be disadvantaged if the tariff isn't increased, as they too could be on low incomes. There potentially could be an impact on the health and well-being of the public if Hackney fares were set too high, which would make this form of transport inaccessible to some of the more vulnerable members of the community who rely on licensed vehicles to get medical appointments, for example. The most vulnerable groups which are reliant on the licensed trade are the elderly and the disabled. Therefore, the committee must weigh up the effects of an increase for all potential users of taxis against the needs of the trade who provide the service to local users. Following consideration, officers recommend that the committee do not implement an annual review of the tariff, but to continue to consider review as and when requests are made from the trade. Officers consider that it is prudent to await a request from a tariff increase from the trade because they are best placed to understand their market and understand when an increase is timely. In order to assist members, you'll see Appendix C. I have produced a benchmarking table in respect of current taxi fares. The Private Hire and Taxi Monthly, which is a website and monthly magazine for the trade and licensing authority, maintains, in essence, a league table of tariffs set by licensing authorities throughout the country. And the latest table for June 2023 shows the figures for all Sussex licensing authorities. And members will note that based on these figures, the Mid-Sussex District Council currently has the highest tariff in East and West Sussex. There's no obligation under the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1976 to revise fares at any set intervals or by any specific methodology. And there is limited guidance available for councils. However, the best practice guidelines, which is published by the Department of Transport, states the department recommends that in reviewing fares, authorities should pay particular regard to the needs of the travelling public, with reference to both what is reasonable to expect people to pay, but also to the need to give taxi drivers the ability to earn a sufficient income and so incentivise them to provide a service when it's needed. I've set out the policy and financial implications for the members, but that is the report in front of yourselves this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Now, this is open up to the committee, so if any of you would like to respond, have comments, questions, this is your opportunity. No? Okay. Well, let's go back to recommendations. Sorry. Sorry, Councillor Knight. Yes.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Is it okay? Yeah, if I may, through the chair, I'll ask Ms. Bryant, in terms of petrol prices, when we put the fee up in 2022, I believe was the last time you mentioned, there's been a big fluctuation post-COVID. So I think it went up to, members will know, 180, 190 or something like that. It's now, I think, sort of levelling off around about 140, 145. So does that have sort of any bearing on where we're at, please?
Yes, certainly, Councillor. As you correctly point out, that at the time when the last fares were considered by the committee, fuel prices were very high. They've now dropped back to a more reasonable level. The member will probably remember a discussion about the additional fee that drivers can place on fares when fuel prices are over £1.90, and now it's considerably lower than that now.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Eaves.
Thank you, Chair. Just out of curiosity, it strikes me as very late that the night fares start at midnight. Is that normal in all other councils? Thank you.
It is common that councils across East and West Sussex generally have a nighttime fare. Historically, the Mid-Sussex one has always commenced at midnight. I haven't done any particular research on corresponding times for other authorities.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, if we can go to the recommendations. The recommendation A, not introduce an annual review of the Hackney carriage tariff, but to review on request by the trade. And question B, recommendation B, not increase the tariff this year. I would like for us to consider both of those as one, to vote. And if you agree to A and B, then you can see that question C is superfluous and not necessary. So if we can have a vote now, A and B recommendations, if you'll go to your screen and vote. I can vote.
Yes. Yeah, you can just click a different one, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I haven't got a different one now.
Would you go and have
Can we just clarify that vote again, because I'm getting slightly confused what we asked to vote for?
So we're asking to vote for A and B on your sheet. Have you got a copy? One is,
What colour are we going to press if we're voting?
if you're voting for those, you vote green, not introduce an annual review of the Hackney carriage, but review on request by the trade. So we wait, and if the trade requests a review, we consider a review. And B, and this not increase the tariff this year. Those are the 2 points we're trying to vote for. So if you support those, you vote green. And number C is superfluous. Okay? So far, okay, that's fine. I've got 9, except 9 are in favour of the recommendation and 1 abstention. So those recommendations are passed. Thank you very much. All right. Now, item number 7 on the agenda, questions pursuant to Council Rule 10.2, due notice of which has been given. I have none. So this will be the end of our meeting, but I would please ask everybody to remain seated until the live stream has finished. Thank you very much.